All right, so if you're a React developer, you know the deal. Performance is always on your mind. But what if the very tools we rely on to get that performance are actually holding us back? Today, we're going to dig into a pretty provocative idea. What comes after memoization? Let's dive in.
And this quote really sets the stage. Memoization is not enough anymore. Wow, that's a bold statement, right? The idea here is that the stuff we use every day, to make our apps fast, well, it might just be hitting a wall. It's a huge claim, so let's really unpack what that means.
Okay, let's talk about the memoization paradox. For what feels like forever, memoization has been our go-to solution. You've got a performance issue? Just slap a use memo or a use callback on it. And hey, for good reason, it works, right? It's pretty much the bedrock of how we think about optimizing React apps today.
But, and this is the big but, does this solution end up creating its own set of problems? Have we just swapped one headache for another? Are we so obsessed with stopping those re-renders that we don't even notice the complexity we're piling into our own code?
So why does memoization fall short sometimes? What are these hidden costs of doing all this optimization by hand? Let's get into the nitty-gritty, the trade-offs, and the stuff that just drives developers crazy on a daily basis.
Okay, here's the trade-off in a nutshell. The promise, the dream, is simple. Stop doing expensive work over and over again. Great, but the reality? Well, the reality is that dreaded dependency array. If you mess it up, even just a little, you get stale data and weird bugs. And even when you get it perfectly right, your code can turn into this tangled web that's just a nightmare to maintain.
And this leads to some frustrations that I bet sound super familiar. I'm talking about dependency hell, right? We've all been there just staring at a use effect, trying to untangle the mess. It's not just the extra boilerplate code you have to write. It's the mental gymnastics trying to keep track of every single dependency. And what this does is it forces us to think about the entire component re-rendering, which, let's be honest, is often like using a sledgehammer to crack a tiny nut.
Okay, so if memoization is this double-edged sword, what's next? What's the alternative? Well, this is where a concept called signals comes into the picture. And look, this isn't just some new, flashy library. It represents a totally different way of thinking about reactivity in our apps. It's a real paradigm shift.
So what is a signal? Think of it like this. It's a little wrapper you put around a value, but it's a really, really smart wrapper. It automatically keeps track of exactly where that value is being used in your UI. The keywords to remember here are automatic and specific. That means no more manually managing dependencies, no more re-rendering a whole component just because one tiny piece of data changed.
And this just lays it out perfectly. You've got two paths to an update. The old memoization way. That's like a bouncer at a huge party. Every time a prop changes, he's got to go down his entire long checklist. But the signal path? That's like having a VIP pass with a personal pager. The second your value updates, you get a direct ping, and only the tiny part of the UI that cares about you changes. Everyone else just keeps partying. It's surgical precision versus, well, a blunt instrument.
So what does this all mean for the future of React? I mean, where are we heading? This isn't just some cool theoretical idea. The prediction we're looking at says that this kind of shift is exactly where React is headed, maybe as soon as 2026.
And if you look at the timeline, this evolution makes a ton of sense, right? In the past, we had the old ways. Right now, we're in the age of memoization, where we have a lot of manual control. So what's the next logical step? It's got to be automating that control. We could be looking at a future where signals aren't just an option. They're the default, built-in way to handle state in React.
Okay, so if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. The whole game is shifting. We're moving away from a world where we have to manually tell React, hey, don't re-render this, to a world where our tools are just smarter, smart enough to find the one tiny piece of the page that needs to change and update only that. What does that mean for you? Better performance, less code, and way less mental overhead. That's the promise.
And that leaves us with a big question to chew on. Is your code ready for a world that moves beyond memoization? As these new ideas start to catch on, it's worth thinking about our own habits. How are we building things right now? And what can we start doing today to get ready for this much more reactive, much more granular future? Something to think about. Thanks for digging into this with me.